Hi, I'm Mira. Welcome to another story. Let's see where this one takes us. The forge burned brightly, its heat warding off the perpetual chill of the twilight. Aldric Fawn hammered rhythmically at the glowing blade in front of him, his hands steady despite the weight in his chest. Each strike sent sparks flying, illuminating the dark corners of the room. He wasn't crafting weapons for rebellion, not anymore. Those days had died with his comrades, leaving Aldric to drown in the isolation of molten steel and unfinished memories. A soft knock at the forge door pulled him from his work. He sighed, setting the hammer down, and ran a hand through his greying hair. His broad shoulders, once unyielding from years of battle, now bore the slump of weariness. "It's open," he called. The door creaked open to reveal Seraphine Gale, her silhouette backlit by the dim twilight. Her dark hair was tied back in a haphazard braid, her leather armour patched and worn. She stepped inside, her piercing green eyes scanning the forge before locking onto Aldric. "I found it," she said, her voice low but brimming with urgency. Aldric wiped his hands on his apron, raising an eyebrow. "Found what?" Seraphine reached into the satchel, slung over her shoulder, and pulled out a blade unlike any Aldric had seen. It shimmered faintly, a golden hue that seemed to push back the twilight's oppressive grey. Its surface was etched with runes that danced as though alive, and its warmth filled the room. "The blade of Solspire," she said, setting it carefully on the workbench. "A fragment of the sun itself." Aldric's breath caught as he stared at the weapon. He reached out instinctively, but stopped short, his hand hovering over the hilt. "Where did you find this?" "In the ruins," Seraphine said, leaning against the workbench. "It was hidden in an old crypt, surrounded by traps. But it's real, Aldric. The stories were true." Aldric pulled his hand back and shook his head. "It's a relic, a myth. You think this will change anything?" Seraphine straightened, her eyes blazing. "You know what this means. This is hope, Aldric. The kind of hope we haven't had in years." "Hope," Aldric snorted, turning back to the forge. "Hope is a dangerous thing. It gets people killed." "No, cowards get people killed," Seraphine snapped. "Sitting here in your forge, hiding from the world, what's that done for anyone?" Aldric's jaw tightened, but he didn't turn around. "I've seen what rebellion costs, Seraphine. I've paid that price. You don't know what it's like to lead people to their deaths." "Maybe I don't," she admitted, stepping closer. "But I know what it's like to watch people suffer because no one will stand up. The king's shadow is choking this kingdom, and you're too afraid to strike back." Her words hung in the air, heavy and accusing. Aldric stared into the forge's flames, his mind racing with images of the past, faces of comrades lost, the weight of their trust in him, and the bitter sting of failure. "I can't be that man again," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Seraphine slammed her hand on the workbench, her frustration spilling over. "You don't have to be a hero, Aldric, but this blade, this is a chance to fight back. If you won't wield it, then teach me how." Her words cut deeper than any sword. Aldric turned slowly, his gaze heavy with both wariness and guilt. "You don't know what this blade will demand of you." "Maybe not," she said, meeting his gaze. "But I'd rather die fighting than live in this shadow." Before Aldric could respond, the forge door burst open. A figure filled the doorway, tall and imposing. Varek, a scarred man with piercing eyes and an axe strapped to his back, stepped inside. His dark skin bore the weathered lines of a life lived on the edge of rebellion. "They're coming," Varek said grimly. "The king's enforcers. They've heard about the blade." Aldric's stomach tightened. "How?" "Doesn't matter," Varek said, his gaze flicking to the sword. "What matters is whether you're ready to use it." Seraphine turned to Aldric, her expression defiant. "This is your chance, right here, right now." Aldric stared at the blade, its glow pulsing faintly, as though waiting for him to decide. His hands trembled as he reached for it, the warmth surging through his veins like fire. The weight of the blade felt familiar, almost welcoming, but it was more than a weapon. It was a promise and a challenge. The sound of hoofbeats echoed in the distance, drawing closer. Aldric tightened his grip on the hilt and turned to his companions, his voice steady. "We fight." For the first time in years, the forge's light felt like the dawn. The hoofbeats drew louder, a rhythmic drumbeat that echoed through the empty streets of the village. Aldric, Seraphine, and Varek crouched in the shadows near the forge's back entrance, the golden blade resting in Aldric's hands. Its faint light illuminated his weathered face, the runes shifting like waves on molten gold. "How many are we looking at?" Aldric asked, his voice low. "4 enforcers in heavy armour," Varek said, his tone calm but firm. "Captain included. They'll be well armed, but they won't expect a real fight." "They're here for the blade," Seraphine added, her hand resting on the hilt of her own sword. "They won't leave until they have it, or until they're dead." Aldric nodded grimly. The blade in his hands pulsed faintly, as though alive, its warmth spreading up his arms and into his chest. It was more than a weapon, it was a fragment of power, raw and untamed. He could feel it calling to him, urging him forward, but it also carried a weight he couldn't ignore. "This isn't going to be a fair fight," Aldric said, glancing at his companions. "If either of you wants to walk away, now's the time." Seraphine snorted, adjusting her armour. "Not a chance! This is what I've been waiting for." "Same here," Varek said, gripping the handle of his axe. His scarred face split into a faint smirk. "Besides, you're going to need me." Aldric allowed himself the briefest flicker of a smile before it vanished under the weight of what was coming. The hoofbeats stopped, replaced by the sound of boots striking cobblestones. The enforcers had dismounted, their silhouettes moving through the village square. "Remember the plan," Aldric said. "Seraphine, take the high ground. Varek, stay close. We end this quickly." The enforcers entered the square, their black armour gleaming in the twilight. The captain led the group, a massive figure with a crimson cape trailing behind him. His helm was adorned with the sigil of the king, a sun eclipsed by shadow. He carried a massive sword, its blade etched with runes that seemed to drink in the dim light. "Search the buildings," the captain barked. "The blacksmith has the blade. Bring him to me." The enforcers fanned out, their heavy boots echoing ominously. Seraphine climbed silently onto the roof of a nearby building, her movements swift and precise. She crouched in the shadows, her bow drawn and an arrow nocked, waiting for Aldric's signal. Aldric stepped into the square, the golden blade glowing faintly in his hand. Its light cut through the gloom, drawing the enforcer's attention immediately. The captain turned, his eyes narrowing as he spotted the blacksmith. "So," the captain said, his voice deep and mocking, "the rumours are true, the blade of Solspire, wielded by an old man who should have stayed behind his forge." Aldric's grip tightened on the hilt. "This old man is about to remind you what a blacksmith can do." The captain's laughter rumbled through the square. "Kill him! Take the blade!" The first enforcer charged, his heavy mace swinging toward Aldric's head. The golden blade moved almost of its own accord, meeting the strike with a burst of light that sent the enforcer staggering back. The second came from Aldric's left, his spear aiming for the blacksmith's ribs, but Varek was faster. The rebel's axe cleaved through the spear's shaft, and with a savage roar, he drove the enforcer to the ground. On the rooftop, Seraphine loosed her arrow. It struck the third enforcer in the shoulder, his armour deflecting the blow but sending him off balance. She didn't wait for him to recover, drawing another arrow and letting it fly. The captain watched unmoving as his men fell one by one. His hand rested on the hilt of his massive sword, his eyes fixed on Aldric. "You've got fight in you, blacksmith. Let's see if it's enough." He drew his blade, its runes flaring with dark energy. The captain moved with surprising speed for his size, his strikes heavy and precise. Aldric parried each one, the golden blade clashing against the dark steel in bursts of light and shadow. The captain pressed the attack, forcing Aldric back. "You think a relic will save you? You're a fool." "It's not the blade that matters," Aldric said through gritted teeth. "It's the hands that wield it." Summoning all his strength, Aldric sidestepped the captain's next swing and brought the golden blade down in a sweeping arc. The sword struck true, carving through the captain's armour with a blinding flash of light. The man fell to his knees, his weapon clattering to the ground. The remaining enforcers froze, their will broken. Varek stepped forward, his axe raised, but Aldric held up a hand. "Let them go," he said, his voice firm. "Let them carry a message." Varek hesitated, then nodded, stepping back. The enforcers helped their wounded captain to his feet and retreated into the twilight. As the village fell silent, Seraphine climbed down from the rooftop, her face flushed with triumph. We did it! Aldric looked down at the golden blade, its glow dimming as the fight ended. He felt its weight more keenly now, not just in his hands but in his heart. This is just the beginning, he said quietly, meeting Seraphine's gaze. The real fight is still ahead. The three of them stood together, the light of the blade a small, defiant ember against the endless twilight. The silence that followed the retreat of the enforcers was heavy, broken only by the faint crackle of burning torches. Aldric stood in the centre of the square, the golden blade still warm in his hands. Its glow had dimmed, no longer blazing with battle's fury, but carrying a steady light, as though waiting for what was to come. "You did it!" Seraphine said, stepping closer. Her voice was steady, but her wide eyes betrayed the awe she felt. "You stood against the king's enforcers and won." "We stood," Aldric corrected, his gaze sweeping over Seraphine and Varek. The younger warrior was wiping blood from the blade of his axe, his scarred face calm but his shoulders tense. "None of us could have done this alone." Seraphine's mouth opened to argue, but before she could speak, movement caught Aldric's attention. Villagers began emerging from their homes, timid at first, their faces pale with fear. The sight of the golden blade seemed to draw them forward, like moths to a flame. A murmur rippled through the small crowd. "Is it true?" an older woman asked, her voice trembling. "Is that the blade of Solspire?" Aldric hesitated, the weight of the villagers' eyes pressing down on him. He nodded. "It is." The crowd stirred, their murmurs growing louder. Fear mingled with something else, hope, fragile and flickering. A young boy stepped forward, his wide eyes fixed on the sword. "Does this mean the king can be beaten?" Aldric stared at the boy, his chest tightening. The boy's question was simple, but the answer was anything but. The golden blade was a symbol of power, yes, but power alone couldn't win a war. The boy didn't know the cost of rebellion, the lives it would take, the weight of leading others into battle. "The king can be beaten," Seraphine said firmly, stepping to Aldric's side. She met the boy's gaze, her voice strong. "But it will take all of us, not just a sword, not just one man." Aldric glanced at her, surprised by the certainty in her voice. She was right, of course, but the road ahead would be long and bloody. The villagers looked to her now, their fear tempered by her conviction. She wasn't just a fighter, she was a leader. Varek stepped forward, his voice a low rumble. "The enforcers will be back, and next time they'll bring more. If we're going to fight, we need to be ready." The crowd shifted, their faces etched with uncertainty. Aldric saw the flickers of fear in their eyes, the hesitation that came with risking everything. He knew that feeling well. He'd lived with it for years. "Listen to me," Aldric said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "This blade is a tool, nothing more. It doesn't guarantee victory. Victory comes from all of us, standing together, fighting for each other. It won't be easy. Some of us won't survive. But if we don't fight, we'll lose everything anyway." His words hung in the air, met with silence. Then slowly one of the villagers stepped forward. A farmer, his hands rough and calloused, his face lined with years of toil. "You stood against them," he said. "If you can fight, so can we." Another voice joined his, then another. The murmurs grew louder, turning into a chorus of agreement. Aldric felt the weight in his chest ease, just slightly. The spark of rebellion had been lit. Later that night, as the village settled into an uneasy calm, Aldric sat alone in his forge. The golden blade rested on the workbench, its glow faint but steady. He ran his fingers over its runes, the warmth a quiet reminder of what it represented. He heard the door creak open and turned to see Seraphine standing there, her braid undone, her face weary but determined. "We're heading out at dawn," she said. "The villagers are ready to move supplies to the hideout. Varek's organising a patrol." Aldric nodded. "Good, they'll need someone to lead them." Seraphine tilted her head, her expression softening. "You mean you?" He shook his head. "No, you, Seraphine. You've got the fire they need. I can teach you what I know, but this fight is yours now." She stepped closer, her eyes searching his face. "You're not walking away again, are you?" "No," Aldric said quietly. "But leading is more than carrying a sword. You've already started showing them what's possible. You can do this." Seraphine hesitated, then nodded. Only if you stand with me. Aldric allowed himself a small smile. I'll be right here at your side. As she left, Aldric turned back to the golden blade. He knew the battles ahead would test them all, but for the first time in years he felt the warmth of hope, steady and unyielding. Together they would bring the dawn. Thanks for listening. If the story stuck with you, come back next time for another journey.